We're going to kick off right away. We got a full morning for you, and first I'm going to invite Chairman Chris Lawson up to the stage to welcome everyone here this morning. Thank you, Chris.
Well done. Good morning. You know, work is a special gift, and to be good at our work is to be able to share it with others what's been given to us. So in Kane County, we have a microcosm of the state and our entire country. You know, there are the broad shoulders of Elgin and Aurora, with industrial background, assimilation of generations of immigrants who have come to this country, and the richness that's provided by diversity. We have the gems of the Tri-Cities and the cities north of Elgin along the Fox River. And to the west, we have some of the most productive farm families in the United States, most productive farm families, and also the farmland in the entire world. And then, yes, a river does run through it. The beautiful Fox River is a special gift to all of us to enjoy. It's all ours to treasure and to share, and as Kane County goes, so goes the rest of the state and the country. My responsibility today is to welcome you to the summit, to thank you for coming, and to frame our discussion for the rest of the morning. Each of you has been individually selected to be invited to be here today. And it's because of your influence and because of your impact on your neighbors, and your ability to make things better in your lives and the lives of everybody around you. So that does make you a very important people. You are leaders, you are good at building relationships, and then building everything that surrounds us. We respect you, and we're very grateful for the work that you do. So I'd like to thank Mark Van Kerkhoff and his staff, Carl Shadle, Barb Jeffers, Roger Fonstock, Rick Nagel, for being the core group that's organized today's function. It came out of an earlier planning collaboration that they used to do every year. And rather than planning and doing an enormous amount of good, but in a smaller context, they've been generous enough to expand it into what you see today, the second annual Kane County Summit. So thank you very much to the organizers today. But I'd like to especially thank each of you for coming, for making the investment. I think that you're going to find that the investment that you make this morning in the thought process and then the call to action and specific things that you take away from what you learned today, and thinking, open your mind this morning to thinking about, well, what can I do in my life, in my area, in my responsibilities with what I learned? There's opportunities just overflowing from what we're talking about today, and take your share of it, and the dividends will be enormous. So today we're going to be discussing modernizing the concept of infrastructure. We intend to light up Kane County in the most positive way. The program today is like an hourglass. You can think of it as a funnel hourglass that then opens up to call for action. First, we have the general case that's going to be presented right off the bat, the general case of people who have done this well in a large, wonderful area of Kansas City. We have a gentleman with us today, Michael Burke, who is a soft-spoken, very intelligent man who was one of the key leaders of making it possible for Kansas City to light up with fiber optics. I especially appreciate Michael's good example because during this process, he also then ran for mayor of Kansas City, and what a good thing to put you and your family forward to give people an opportunity to, select, putting yourself on the line. That's what our speaker, keynote speaker this morning has done. Then we're going to go into the specific case as we get more narrow. We'll get the general, then we'll go to the specific in two parts. The first one is going to be Roger Fonstock, who's going to present the asset that we have in Kane County because of his foresight. If it weren't for Roger Fonstock, we wouldn't be here today. While we're building roads in Kane County through the leadership of our Kane County Department of Transportation, it was Roger's initiative who said, while we're building that, let's build for the future, and put in 47 miles of fiber optic cable in the ground. If that hadn't been done, if the boards in the past and leadership of the county in the past had not supported that, there'd be none of this opportunity. So, Roger, where are you? You're going to have a, okay. Well done, and thank you so much for. You know, I think that it was Emerson who said that the world is the lengthened shadow of man and woman. And it is really true that without individual initiative, and I think that it's true for every person who has, or, you know, was selected and arrived here this morning, that it is the lengthened, our world is the lengthened shadow of what you are and what you do. And so it is those kinds of key things. We then go to a panel discussion of both suppliers of services through the internet. Well, what's like the smorgasbord, or what's the buffet of all the things that we've dreamt up to this point, and what's available? So that's going to be the suppliers. But there's also going to be a group of these entrepreneurs and leaders who have identified what the customers look like and drawing the innovation through the process, because in the end, any sustainable kind of business, it's going to take somebody paying for some service that they desire, that the market desires. And so we have people who are going to be on that panel who represent action and accomplishment in that area. And then finally, the capstone of what we're going to be doing today, we have another keynote speaker at the other bookend of the program. It's going to be one of the most powerful, effective executives in our region, and that's Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle is going to wrap it up by describing some of the things that she's led the way for all of us in the Chicago and Northern Illinois region as far as economic development and making things better for people. So this is about infrastructure. Roads, bridges, buildings, wonderful. They are a source of great public pride, individual pride and public pride. You know, you make an investment in a building, bridge, roads, but you know it has a useful life. And as soon as you cut that ribbon, it's depreciating. It's starting to run out that useful life. But think about, and by the way, usually a government has to tax to start to replace it. But think about fiber optics, information highway kind of infrastructure, where there are people at the receiving end of that service who are willing to pay a user fee or a service fee to support it and to expand it. So it's an infrastructure that pays for itself. So it is a wonderful thing what's going to be talked about today, and every one of you has a share in this, and you need to today identify, well, what am I going to take from here back to, you know, my set of responsibilities? How am I going to use this tremendous asset that's shared for all of us, initiated from a responsible government? I think the board that supports all these initiatives, but then it's what you do with it in the end. So thank you very much for coming today. I'm glad you're here.
Good morning again. And I'm Mark Van Kerkhoff. I'm Director of Development and Community Services for Kane County. One of the hats I wear is economic development. Last evening I had the privilege to be able to have dinner with Michael Burke, our next speaker. As Chairman Lawson mentioned, he does come to travel to join us today from Kansas City, which we greatly appreciate. But you are really going to enjoy what he has to say. It was fascinating to hear what they've accomplished and how they accomplished it in Kansas City. A couple facts about Michael. He is active in the rapidly developing Kansas City technology community. He was appointed as co-chair of the mayor's Bi-State Innovation Team, a task force charged with developing strategies for the use of the new fiber technology in Kansas City. He also serves as co-chair of the Advisory Council for KC Digital Drive, a program to implement strategies for the growth of Kansas City as a leading technology center. Mr. Burke chaired the Launch KC Initiative, a program of the Kansas City Economic Development Corporation to assist small and medium-sized tech companies. He is a member of the Missouri IT Council and on the advisory committee to the Digital Sandbox, a proof of concept center started with the leadership of the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And not surprising after all of that, Government Technology Magazine named Mr. Burke as one of the top 25 doers, dreamers, and drivers for 2014. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Michael Burke.
Thank you. Thank you. And it is a great pleasure. Thank you, Chairman Lausen. Appreciate the kind introduction, especially the intelligent part. I've never been introduced that way. First of all, I appreciate the invitation to your beautiful county. I got a chance to see a little bit of it yesterday and this morning, and a river does run through it, and it's a beautiful, beautiful river. Our river in Kansas City is a little more raucous, the Missouri River. We don't just take a canoe out in it and paddle around. But it's a beautiful county, and I can tell talking to people this morning how proud you are of your area and what a sense of identity that you have developed for Kane County. All the more important for what you're about to embark on. Because what I'm going to talk about is not about physical infrastructure, it's a lot more about human infrastructure. As many of you know, in 2010, Google made an announcement that they were going to select one city to put a gigabit of fiber to the entire city, fiber to the home. And it sparked a huge competition. 1,100 cities across the country filed applications. The application itself was relatively simple. So to enhance their chances of winning, many cities did some very interesting things. Topeka, Kansas changed its name to Google. The mayor of Duluth jumped in Lake Superior. And one city rented a plane and flew a banner across Mountain View, the Google headquarters, saying, "Pick us." And in some cities, they had parades and turned out 1,000 people with glow sticks spelling out Google. So it was an interesting competition. And then in 2011, first March 30th for Kansas City, Kansas, and then in May for Kansas City, Missouri, Google announced, we're going to build your fiber network. And that was a huge announcement for our city. And I often say what Google did for our area had little to do with fiber. It was the energy that consumed our community immediately about, gee, we're going to have 1,000 times faster access to the internet. And then the next question was, what does that mean? How do I use it? How much is it going to cost? Where is it going to go? What do I do with it? How does it impact business? How does it impact my life? How does it impact the schools and health care? And those are all hugely important questions. Most of the cities around the country are still, as you are, focusing on how do I get that in the ground? How do I get the fiber network? We had a rare privilege in Kansas City of having that done for us. But then we had to figure out what it means. We were fortunate that we had pretty solid tech community in Kansas City, thanks to some of the companies headquartered there. Sprint Corporation's headquartered there. Garmin, which makes the maps, GPS systems. And especially thanks to Sprint layoffs, as they upsized and downsized. We had a lot of entrepreneurs that were tech savvy in the community. What we didn't have was the kind of cohesiveness of our tech community. And that was one of the most immediate impacts of the Google announcement, is all of a sudden we found ways to get our tech community together, interacting with each other, coming up with ideas, and that was one of the immediate impacts, and that's so important. I'll get to that, some of the spin-offs from that effort later. The question then was, how do we as a community take advantage of high-speed fiber? And the two mayors, mayor of Kansas City, Kansas, and mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, who is the one that I ran with, we were both good friends, and we both agreed whoever won got to be mayor, and whoever didn't got to volunteer for all these task forces. I came out ahead on that one. I get to go home at night. So the two mayors got together, which is unusual with a state line running through our cities, and they said, let's appoint a group to figure out what it means. So they appointed 6 from Missouri, 6 from Kansas. I was the Missouri chair. It was an interesting group of people, some with tech backgrounds, some just, as I had, more public policy backgrounds. So it was an interesting group to work with to begin with. And then we were charged with writing what we call a playbook, or a strategy for our communities on making Kansas City a gigabit city. The only problem was we looked around and there were no templates of other cities across the country in terms of, how do you do a gigabit city plan. We ended up, and this was absolutely fascinating, but fairly early on we had telepresence conferences with Barcelona, Amsterdam, Moscow, Toronto, and Singapore. And those are all areas that have their plans, most of them government financed. But we learned a lot. Most importantly, they reaffirmed that we were headed in the right direction and helped point us in the right direction. That was very important for us. So we spent the better part of a year listening to the community, listening to experts, going to meet with educators, going to meet with hospitals, and government officials. One of the advantages we had is everybody wanted to know about Google Fiber and what it's going to cost, and when's it going to be installed, what's the timetable, and who's going to get it. Google told us none of that. Google is very tight-lipped. They're a very tight-lipped company. So we operated in a vacuum as far as that provider. We did have a lot of input from the incumbent providers, Time Warner, Comcast, and others. But Google was very nice. They said, we'll tell you when we've got it figured out. And that was true. I always say about Google, I've studied a lot of the history of their company, and I thought, these are smart people and they know what they're doing. Now I changed that to, these are smart people and they're making it up as they go along. But just a few stories about listening. One of the main thrusts, my co-chair on this was a retired school superintendent. And he, of course, was very interested in education. And so we met with the universities. We met with the K through 12 schools. We learned a lot. We learned that common complaint from the universities was how long it takes to adjust their curriculum in a fast-paced, fast-changing era. And then we have a lot of school districts. Just within Kansas City, Missouri itself, we have parts of 14 school districts. That presents a problem. We'll talk a little bit about silos. But I'd say some of the superintendents we talked to got it, some didn't. We ended up talking to a lot of tech people and teachers within the school districts, and we found out that there were silos not only among the school districts, but silos within the school districts. That the tech people, the administrators, and the teachers didn't necessarily communicate effectively. One administrator told us about ordering 600 pads, notepads, and then finding out they're not compatible with the school system. Teachers complained, and this is a valid complaint, that they dumped these new pads in their classrooms and never taught them how to use them to teach, because it's a different teaching method. We're gradually adjusting to the new reality there. But one day my cohort, retired school superintendent, said, "Mike, do you think we ought to talk to some pre-K teachers?" And I thought, I'm not sure that's important, but go ahead and set it up. That was probably the most important takeaway that I took from the whole education issue. And that is, we have a tsunami of 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds hitting our school system that are the first generation totally digital age kids. And the minute you tell them leave your devices at home, you've made a mistake. And we have to adjust quickly in our education system to teach the teachers. I had teachers telling me, I don't know how to use it, but my third grade class told me how to do it. And you talk to grandparents who know nothing about iPads, and their 4-year-olds are teaching them how to use it. So that first generation of the digital age is something we need to track very closely, and we need to understand. One of the other groups that we listened to were millennials, and that was most enjoyable. Millennials are different than baby boomers. They think differently. Their priorities are different. They're neither good nor bad, but they're different. And I'll tell you about one very important occurrence in Kansas City. And that was something that developed organically. And it was called Kansas City Startup Village. And Google, as they rolled out, they did what they called fiberhoods. And it was a competitive system of which neighborhoods signed up their quota to be the first to get the Google Fiber. Well, the one that got chosen first, there was a guy who took his 401k, drained it, and bought a house. And he invited hackers into the house to live there free of charge for a period of time, to work together to develop apps and work on their startups. And then, lo and behold, somebody else bought a house, did the same thing. And then another house, and then another house. And we had an investor from Colorado that wrote the book on startup communities, and he bought a house. So we developed a whole community of 7 or 8 houses of young people working together to develop apps. Now, from a baby boomer point of view, it didn't make any sense. The business plan didn't make any sense. But what was so important was this, to me, was a great look into the functioning of millennial communities. And that is so important. And one of the things I would urge this morning, because I see a few more non-millennials than young people here. You've got to understand that generation. That generation is going to influence housing. They're going to influence office space. They're going to influence consumerism. They're certainly going to impact the tech community. And we already see it with disruptive services like Uber and other services. It's disruptive. So understanding that community. I always tell the millennials I talk to, in Kansas City, we have become a young person's town, and which is different than it had been for a lot of reasons. I say, this is, in my 40-plus years of professional life in Kansas City, it's the best time to be a young person, and I'm glad I am. Okay, so after a year of work among our group and public meetings and public hearings and lots of talking, we put out what we called the playbook. And there's a link there, kcdigitaldrive.org/playbook, if you want to look it up. But that was the original 2012 strategic plan for our community. And I want to impart what I think is the one mantra that we put in the introduction to the playbook, that creating a successful internet economy is 10% technology and 90% sociology. And over the years, I might have changed that to maybe 95% sociology, because I mentioned, like in the school districts, the silos, breaking down those silos. Same in healthcare, same in economic development. And we took a hard look at education, digital inclusion, which is especially important in a city like Kansas City, where we have a lot of people with no computer at home, no access to the internet. The school superintendent tells a story. They gave pads to their high school students, and he gets a call early one morning from security at the high school. Says, we've got a bunch of students milling around outside the high school. I'm not sure why. They were there because of the Wi-Fi. They didn't have it at home. They didn't have connectivity. And I spoke to a lot of school kids from different parts of town that did not have that kind of connectivity at home. And that's absolutely crucial to work on digital inclusion. And we've developed a number of programs I'll talk about. Education I've talked about. Again, it's a wave of young people, and we need to ride that wave. Economic development is most interesting, because that's my background. I have been a development attorney for 43 years and worked with all the tools, which are great tools, but I now call them 20th century tools, not 21st century tools. And I worked a lot with our Economic Development Corporation. I picked up the phone one day, called my friend down there and said, hey, I'm Joe from Cincinnati. He knew who I was. And I said, I got a couple of guys, and we're working on some apps. We're intrigued what's happening in Kansas City. We'd like to come there. What can you do for us? And there was silence on the other end of the phone, because we had no economic development program geared to startups, geared to millennials, geared to the needs of a new tech community. And we said we need to remedy that, and I'll talk about Launch KC, which was our answer. In the arena of government, Kansas City was awakening and has awakened on the government side to what needs to be done to be a digital city. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the recommendations. Entrepreneurial innovation, we had a lot of good unconnected entrepreneurial groups, but we found we needed to connect them not only in a work setting, but also socially, because some of the best ideas come from the social interaction of young entrepreneurs. Then healthcare was another area we took a look at. We had some hospital people on our board and ran into some interesting issues. One, I discovered how proprietary hospitals were with their information, and the thought of sharing among hospitals was a little bit of a hurdle. The other was we have two medical schools in Kansas City, University of Missouri and University of Kansas, both excellent facilities. University of Kansas is top cancer research center. So you can get on the internet and go out to Dodge City and help diagnose a cancer patient in Dodge City, Kansas, if you're working in Kansas City, Kansas at the university. You can't go across the street to Missouri and do the same thing. The reason being is doctors are licensed by state, and I think at some point we're going to have to overcome that. A lot of states, especially where they have lack of medical care in rural areas, that's a huge boon and opportunity. State of Texas has a wonderful medical network where they can consult with specialists from Dallas or Austin or Houston across the whole state of Texas, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So we published our presentation, and I want to see if I can explain this chart, which I try and understand myself sometimes. But the important thing is a digital community is not just one that has high-speed fiber. It's one that brings together the resources, the organizations, educates its people, has, of course, the infrastructure, but also measures and also continuously refines what its strategies are. And what we published in 2012, we've kept refining. We've kept adding to, we've kept tweeting. We found out some of the assumptions we had were not self-executing. So we had to take steps to execute those issues. Here's what has happened since. All of these programs listed here did not exist when we published our playbook. They were direct or indirect outgrowths of the playbook. Let me go through them one by one. KC Digital Drive, we realized we didn't want Playbook to sit on a shelf, that we needed an organization whose goal was to help implement and help communicate not only to our community but to other communities across the country what it means to be a gigabit city. We just had last week 300 people attend what we called the Gigabit City Summit. And they are communities like yours that want to know what we did, what worked, what didn't work. They want to share what they are doing in their communities. And I'll stress, every community is different. There is no one size fits all because Kansas City certainly differs from Kane County. And in terms of some of the demographics and makeup and size. So there's no one size fits all, but you need to do a plan that fits your community. One of the issues we struggled with was the digital divide, the haves and the have-nots. Because what you do not want in your community is to have part of the community that has the fastest internet in the country, and the other half of your community that's not even connected, that can't even fill out a job application or a medical application online. And so that is a continuing and ongoing effort. Now, we were helped by Google and others. They established what they called the Digital Inclusion Fund, which is run through our community foundation. And we have literally dozens of applicants lined up for those programs. And they're church groups, they're schools, they're not-for-profits. They all have to be not-for-profits. Public library. And we created this $1 million+ fund, and we do grants every year to education programs where groups are going out and teaching people how to use the internet, helping them get connected. One of the really great models is a group called Connecting for Good. It's a not-for-profit wasn't even formed at the time we started. But they have connected through Wi-Fi public housing projects, low-income apartment projects, tremendous results. They also have established teaching for beginners on how to use a computer. They take old computers and repurpose them, and it's a great program. And you cannot afford in your community, anywhere across the country, to have the haves and the have-nots in terms of digital literacy. So we have some robust programs to address that. I mentioned the economic development strategy. You need 21st century tools. Startups, offering a startup a TIF or a tax abatement doesn't quite hack it. They're not into real estate, they're not into tax abatement. What they need are grants, they need seed money. In later stages, they need investor money. They need mentors. They need free office space. They need to be introduced to the robust corporate community and have access to that corporate community. And we listened. We listened to these young startups. And I think that's 5 minutes. Okay. And we listened very well. And Launch KC was one of those programs I helped start, and it's through our Economic Development Agency and other not-for-profits, and we now, this will be our second year, taking applications for $500,000 in grants, 10 $50,000 grants, plus free office space in Kansas City, plus mentoring, plus working with the corporate community. We had 500 applicants our first year from all over the country and many all over the world. Now the one requirement was you got to move to Kansas City, move your business to Kansas City. But in less than a year, one of our 10 got bought up and taken to Silicon Valley. So we consider it a great success, and we're just started taking applications. I did not volunteer for the review committee because that's an arduous task, but it's one that's really very exciting. We found out we had a lot of people either tinkering in their homes or in spare time at work with their idea for a startup, but they didn't quite know where to go. So we created, with the University of Missouri, Kansas City, what's called the Digital Sandbox. We just in time made the deadline for an application for $1 million grant from the U.S. Department of Commerce. We won the grant. And this is for early stage startups. And we have counseled in the last 2.5 years 300 people interested in startups. Out of that 300, we have 23 corporations and companies that have been formed. And no, more than that, we have 30. We have 23 million in follow-on funding from the private sector and others, and 250 new jobs in Kansas City. So that's been a very successful program. 1 million cups, I don't know if anybody's heard of the Kauffman Foundation. Kauffman Foundation is a multi-billion-dollar foundation founded by the late Muriel Kauffman, who was in the pharmaceutical business. And its sole purpose is to encourage entrepreneurs. And they started a program in Kansas City. It's now been expanded to several dozen other cities called 1 Million Cups. But this is the social aspect that I talked about of how do you get entrepreneurs, business people, lawyers, finance people, people just thinking about it, tinkerers, in one place at one time to interact with each other. So 1 million cups, and it's patterned off 1 million cups of coffee, of how you sit around drinking coffee, brainstorming. Every Wednesday morning, they have up to 300 people show up to hear 2 entrepreneurs explain their ideas. It's a fascinating study. It's been replicated in other cities, not really to the same level of success. I think Chicago has it, but It's a fascinating look into the functioning of an entrepreneurial system. The city established an Office of Innovation for the government sector. We just got through submitting a week ago an application for a $50 million federal transportation grant for smart cities. But we just opened 2 weeks ago a new streetcar system in our downtown, and it's all Wi-Fi and it's all interconnected. And we have great opportunity. Casey Startup Village, I've mentioned that's the group of houses where the hackers hang out. Fascinating to watch. They had to appoint somebody full-time to handle tours. At last count, they had representatives from 45 different countries tour Kansas City Startup Village. We had tours from the European Union, we had foreign press tours, we had diplomatic tours. A lot of interest in what's happening in Kansas City. And finally, KC Rising. KC Rising it took a little while for the more staid portion of the business community. I'm away from home, so I can say that. To catch on that they need to play a role in funding startups. And their commitment is $25 million of seed money for startups for Kansas City. So those are the types of things, when you talk about building a gigabit city, those are the types of things that need to happen in addition to just having the fiber. Now, I want to brag a little bit about our city. Kansas City, you wouldn't recognize it from 10 years ago. We've done a lot of things. We've got some great leadership. We've redone our downtown. We're building new hotels and a new streetcar system. What I didn't touch was another role I've played, which is in the arts community. We actually built a new $250 million performing arts center. I managed to sneak a picture of the Kauffman Center for the Performing Arts, which is both an 1,800 seat for ballet and opera, and 1,600 seat for the symphony. Beautiful, beautiful facility. And that's really part of the strategy too, because I think the goal of Kane County and any city across the country is to respond what I think is one of the great challenges of our time, which is to grow, educate, keep, steal talent. We are in a worldwide competition for talent. And with the amenities you have in Kane County, I think that's a major part of your strategy. How do we keep the talent here that we have? How do we train new talent? How do we siphon out of other places, like Chicago? And talk about the quality of life and the style of life and the cost of living, and make Kane County the desirable place. We've accomplished that in many respects in Kansas City. And I don't put a whole lot of stock in the national rankings that magazines put out. But compared to 10 years ago, all of a sudden, Kansas City is getting a lot of accolades. The bottom one is actually kind of the coolest city award, and I take credit for that. But it's nice to have people saying great things. We still have a lot of work to do. We need more funding for startups. I think we're pretty good in it's usually 3 tiers. It's the initial tier, and then you get to the point you actually have a product and customers, and you need to hire people and bring in equipment, and that's second tier, and that's in the millions usually. And then you really take off exponentially, and that's the third tier financing. And a lot of that third tier financing, you have to go to Silicon Valley. And what happens then, we've experienced with some of our successes, they can get their money in Silicon Valley, but that comes at a price. They have to move out there. Or they get bought out and move out there. So we want to provide more third tier funding. We've had mixed results in our legislatures in Missouri and Kansas. Kansas had a very good Angel investor tax credit program is very successful, had good results. We tried to duplicate that in Missouri. The Speaker of the House made it his bill, passed the House like 200 to 9, got killed in the Senate 3 years in a row. And it didn't have to do with that tax credit, it had to do with the historic tax credits, long story. But the state of Missouri has anteed up for like our Launch KC grants, $500,000 a year. So that's been very successful. We need continuous evaluation, and you do not stand on your laurels. You don't pat yourself on the back and say, we've done it, we've accomplished it. No, there are always challenges to do. I hope to have time maybe later to answer questions. I'll stick around, and if anybody has any questions, we'd love to talk about what we've done and what we have left to do, and I think it's very exciting where Kane County is right now. It's an exciting time. You should be excited about this fiber coming into your town, into your county, because it's going to open doors that you didn't realize you had to open. It's going to be, I think, a great success story for the county, and I wish you great luck. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Roger Fonstock, who has served as the Chief Information Officer for Kane County since 2002. Mr. Fonstock has transformed technology in Kane County through building partnerships with the elected officials, department heads, and technology providers. Roger has been a tremendous resource to Kane County through his experience in education, government, and private business. During Roger's 13-year tenure at Kane County, he has directed initiatives to improve, replace, and automate the county's applications, infrastructure, systems, and services, including finance, tax administration, public safety, judiciary, and telecommunications. And of course, he is responsible for our topic this morning with our fiber network. I've had the privilege of being able to work with Roger, and along with elected officials, other department heads can attest to the way he and his team that he's built has elevated and improved and made much more efficient the way county government does business. I found Roger to be a leader, a planner, and one heck of a smart guy. So please join me in welcoming Roger Fonstock.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks. Okay. So it's always fun to watch the technology guy run a presentation, right? See how this works. So what we're here to talk about today is the county's fiber technology. And I'd first like to say a few thank yous. Chairman Lawson for allowing me the opportunity to speak in front of a crowd like this. The IT people kind of get pushed to the back when we're working on a lot of the development and planning, and I think that Chairman Lawson has a vision for some of the things that we bring to the table, that we offer from technical minds. I think that's really important. Mr. Burke, I think that was an excellent presentation, and it sets the table for some of the things that we have going on in Kane County. In addition to that, a few other thank yous, the departments and offices that help put this together. It's a fabulous event. It's great to have this many people here. One last thank you. In the early days of setting up a lot of this fiber optic network, we were working on, how do we set up fiber to get access to government buildings. We didn't really have a really long-term vision or plan like Michael was talking about in Kansas City. So we started to formulate a plan. We started to look at how we would do these things. And one of the big partners in that would have been Carl Shadle in the Transportation Department from Kane County. They're fabulous. I think that a lot of this came to be through a partnership with their engineering folks and the people that do their planning and work in their traffic and management of the highways in the county infrastructure. So I think that's really important. So a couple of things about the fiber network. The first 47 miles and the construction of this, we began planning back in 2010. So this is something that's been going on for quite some time. It's received good support from the county board, and like I said, initially it was a county initiative. We needed to connect buildings in 5 different cities. We have a large county, 500 plus square miles. Some of our buildings are 20 minutes, 30 minutes apart, and they, in Elgin and Aurora. So we have some geographical challenges that we were faced with. And then there's this need for bandwidth. We needed more. In the first few years when I was working with the county, we were struggling with a 1 megabit service, not gigabit, 1 megabit service for internet for the county. We have over 1,500 employees sharing 1 megabit, which you probably have more than that at your house now. So how do you increase that? How do you step into the next world, the millennials and all these people that want bandwidth? They want every device to be connected all the time. And we have thousands of people coming into courtrooms, thousands of people coming into government offices, and when they bring their devices with them, they want to be connected. So those are some of the challenges that we were facing, and we were looking at the construction and the backbone and the complement of what the Transportation Department had done along the county highway system gave us a unique opportunity to build an infrastructure to support broadband, to support infrastructure for dark fiber, for managed fiber services, and those types of things. So the one convenient thing that we have in Kane County, and I'll point this out, is the Randall Road corridor and Orchard. And if you're familiar with Kane County, you'll know that that's our commercial economic engine, a lot of business and retail along that particular corridor. Kane County Highway Department happens to have a vault and structured conduit system along that road. So what we did, we complemented that, and we went in and installed 47 miles of fiber along that corridor, and then we did some other county highways and interconnects to build out more structure to reach more places along the east side of the river, east side of Kane County. Conveniently, as we were building out this fiber, you'll notice that there's a couple of institutions on the right-hand side. These are commercial data centers. They do data and they do computer and infrastructure for a business. They're located strategically on the map off of this fiber network. There's 3 of them. There's ByteGrid in Aurora, there's New Continuum and CME, all located hanging off of this fiber infrastructure. So those are huge assets. The other point about this map, and I love this map because of the perspective that it provides with the city of Chicago and the breadth from south to north or north to south of the size of Chicago. If you look at that map, you'll notice that our fiber network that is just west of Chicago, we're approximately 35 miles west of Chicago, and that map shows you that our fiber network spans the entire north-south distance of the city of Chicago. We also intersect with Interstate 88 and Interstate 90, which is the tollways. And as development and other transportation folks would tell you, we have 3 commuter rail stations that end out in Kane County. So the highway, the transportation, we have an economic engine and a corridor, and we also have a dark fiber or a fiber presence along the county highway system, which I think is the solution or maybe the proposed solution to many of the technological challenges that we face in Kane County. So this represents really what we feel are some of the points of interest and some of the things that we already have connectivity and connections established in the Kane County area. NIUNet and the Northern Illinois University folks, they're going to be on a panel. We have a representative from NIU to talk a little bit about some of the questions and ideas that they've had. They've been a great partner, Illinois Century Network in the state of Illinois. We've worked with them on partnerships with schools and education. I think they're really important. Some of the other things that I've already mentioned about the highways and the Tollway Authority, all good partners that we work with. And that's one of the common themes that you're going to hear us talk about. Kane County, as a government, as an IT department, we can't be all things to all people. We need partners. We need resellers. We need commercial. We need the education, the healthcare, all of those different entities working together, very similar to what Mr. Burke said about the sociology of it. How do we understand or know what it is that you need without talking with you, interfacing with you, finding out what your needs are, and where we can complement that. We do have good partnerships with the municipalities. We connect into most of the major municipalities. Some of the smaller municipalities, we still have some challenges with the last mile. We still have to work on some of those plans, and obviously there's costs associated with some of those things. We've had a good partnership with the community colleges. We have some people here from our local community colleges, Elgin Community College, Waubonsee Community College is here, I think. Those institutions have been very complimentary, very helpful in establishing these services and working with us. And I think that says a lot about some of the sociology that's already developing in the county. So why is this important? What does it matter? And I think, again, Mr. Burke had stressed that this was a challenge, getting people to understand why do you need this? Or if I talk to you about it, what does it matter to you? One of the things that we're going to talk about in a minute is some examples of how this is put together and how it works, and an example of how it's a cost benefit or a value and an improvement in service. I think those are some of the things that everyone can derive from services like this. Competition is critical in this industry. Competition is important. It creates value. It creates a marketplace where people can buy services. They can buy more and they can get it for a better price. Sometimes they're looking for different levels of service, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well in our panel, hopefully. There's obviously differences in different service providers, and what we're looking for is not to create a monopoly, not to create some kind of a mandate, but to be a good partner and create that competitive market and allow the infrastructure of the county to be available. So what does this do for me? It can provide the regional connectivity. We showed you the map with the data centers. Those commercial data centers, great for co-location, great for providing services, internet, carrier Ethernet, all kinds of storage solutions. And you hear the word cloud thrown around. Well, the cloud is really this network of infrastructure and network of service providers and these types of data centers. This will give regional connectivity to the county and to the greater Chicago regional area. It can also provide connectivity to the world. So one of the things that development works on is our export initiatives and the Jobs Committee. It's a wonderful extension of the county where we talk about things like businesses that want to be involved and engaged in exporting. They sell products outside of the country and bring money here. That's revolutionary. Some of those things are becoming more and more important. We're starting to communicate more effectively about that, and I think it's something that the county and the people in the county can be proud of. Hopefully we can be known for those types of things. Common services, internet service provider. Like I said, early in the days of working with Kane County, we had a 1 megabit service. Now our service is multiple gigabit service. So we went from 1 to thousands of megabit in order to provide the service just to Kane County. Other businesses have those same types of needs. We realize that, and we're hoping we can complement that. So one of the examples that I brought was a recent project with the Geneva School District. This project is being put together right now with a couple of our partners. School districts shopping for internet service. They're looking to basically double their bandwidth. They're looking to increase the bandwidth for their students to provide a solution that can meet the needs of park testing. If you don't know what park testing is, it's a new standardized testing where they're going to do a lot of it online. It's going to require a lot of demand for internet bandwidth and a lot of devices in order to function and get that requirement met. So they're looking at doubling their bandwidth. They're looking at the cost of their current providers. I put some numbers on here. These are roughly what the costs look like. You're dealing with a 500 megabit service at $9.15 a meg, which is a very good rate, by the way. But at $54,900 a year, they went out to competitive process to get bids and pricing. We had at least 3 partners talk to us about how they could deliver that service to the school district for a lower price. And I know that partnership resulted in a gigabit service being delivered at roughly half the price of what they were looking to pay for their incumbent, and they got double the service. So from our perspective, that was a win. The service provider, the reseller that was working with them, was able to come in, do a proposal, and get this off the ground and get the school district what they needed and get them that competitive pricing that they were looking for. So I think that's a good success story for us on an example of internet. Another example of a success story is someone that's going to be on our panel a little bit later is from the Conservancy and a company called Fosiva. They do fiber to the home in Gilberts, Illinois, and they're providing this service to a new development, new residential development. So an example of that is looking to replace an incumbent that's providing a gigabit service. Again, they're paying a little bit more for commercial connection. They're at $84,000 a year, let's say, for a round number. The proposal for that connection, again, cuts their price in half and delivered the same service using a fiber optic reseller and partner. And we're working with them on establishing a little bit better service and redundancy and some peering. Anything you do with internet and connectivity, while you need quality and high bandwidth, you're also looking at getting diversity and redundancy, because this type of service has to be always on. It's kind of like the old telephone line. When you picked up the old telephone and it was always on, you got dial tone. Very similar need for internet technology and the internet service providers. They want it to be always on. That results in needing multiple carriers, multiple providers. If one provider has a bad day, it doesn't mean you shut down the school district. Any of the school district folks out here can tell you that if a school district is trying to do opening school registration, get my bus routes, internet has to be always on. Millennials, especially the kids in schools, they're always online checking their schedules. They don't print anything, nothing's on paper to them. So you have to have this constant presence of internet and constant bandwidth. So Faceva is one of the companies that's providing that to the Gilbert's community, and they're working with the Fiber to the Home project. I was given this information recently about their web presence and some of the things. I thought I'd put it up there because it's a good example of what one of these reseller partners is able to do or is working to do in a village like Gilbert's and in a development. They've gone through and they've done some examples of speed tests, and they're providing gigabit to the homes. They have some videos out there, and I think that, you know, from an entrepreneurial spirit, it's exciting to see somebody wanting to take on that type of an investment in a community, and they want the partnership. And I think that that competition and the marketplace can help them deliver a service that the residents, and hopefully it'll get into some commercial solutions, but it provides value, and it provides a good price point, and it creates a competition and makes Kane County more competitive for the dollars that are out there, whether it's you know, residential development, commercial development. We want to be the destination place for that money and for those investments. So example 3 that we're going to cover is a government fiber lease. So we were approached a few years ago about Elgin Community College in the state of Illinois, and they had embarked on a grant to connect community colleges. And they were spending money to build and construct fiber into community colleges at an alarming rate. They were spending tens of millions of dollars in construction costs. They were getting near the end of the project. They were trying to work with Elgin Community College to build about 10 miles, 11 miles of fiber. This also stretched to the north border of McHenry County with Kane County for McHenry County College. The state approached us, and basically the scenario is that they had $880,000 of construction to do and didn't have really the budget to complement that to finish their project. And they approached us knowing that we had this fiber, and they were asking us, you know, is there a way we can work out a lease with the county? So they were basically offsetting $880,000 of new construction along a road where we already had fiber. And we offered them basically a 20-year lease on that. And the price for that over 20 years is $170,000 for them. So the construction of fiber, or the overbuild of fiber along that route, would have cost them $880,000. They saved, you know, just over $700,000 in leasing fiber, or using infrastructure that the government already owned and the taxpayers had already basically provided. So I think these are 3 really good examples of how this fiber is put together and how it can work. The next question that we come across is, how do you engage the county or these resellers and partners in the use of the development of ideas, the design, the plan that Mr. Burke was talking about from Kansas City? Some of the organizations are small enough, they can do some simple planning, they can do some simple conversations. Some of the cities and organizations need much more comprehensive planning. One of the things that I talk about a lot with small agencies or small organization is, if you put together the plan and you have a financial plan and you have an explanation, the idea is that it should be good enough that you would have an entrepreneur or a business or a bank invest in that plan. And if it's not good enough for someone to take up and want to invest in that plan, maybe you should think about doing something else. So there's some things about this that do cost money. They do take investment. There's an entrepreneurial spirit about that. I think that Mr. Burke explained that. There's some really wonderful things that happen when you get the synergy of some technical people, some innovation hubs, the people that want to do this, that already have that creative mindset. They're going to do it. They're going to do it anywhere. Anywhere where they can get those types of services, they're going to be doing what they do. And if you want to be that destination, or you want to be that place, you're going to have to complement that. You're going to have to be providing that. So with that, that was the extent of a 15-minute overview of some of the things that Kane County is doing with the fiber network. One last thing that I wanted to end with, and I've been using this quite frequently as a quote, and I think it's an interesting statement of our time with technology, especially the folks that are baby boomers versus millennials, and that's a statement from Arthur C. Clarke. If you don't know who Arthur C. Clarke was, he was a co-writer of the Odyssey, Space Odyssey 2001. And one of the things that he said was that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And so one of the things that we try to do with our fiber project and our technology planning at Kane County is kind of dismiss and explain the magic. We try to show you who are the partners, who are the resellers, who are the people that makes these connectivity issues possible to give you solutions to provide for your community, for your organizations, for government, for business, all of those different interest groups that have a play in what we do with Kane County Fiber. So with that, I think we're going to go to break. We're going to be setting up our panelists, which are going to be answering some questions. These panelists come from a wide variety of industry. They represent residential development. Northern Illinois University is going to be on that panel. We have a person from our data center providers is on that panel. A fiber lease and fiber management company, infrastructure management company is on the panel. So I think you're going to find that really exciting. They do have some refreshments and some other things set up outside of these doors for you during the break. And what I'd like to do now is have everyone take the break. We'll set up the panel and have everyone come back in about 15 minutes. And we'll do a little bit more talking about solutions and some of the panelists. So again, thank you for coming back after the break. We appreciate your presence. A couple of things, related to the presentation, going back to where we were at in our brief presentation about the Kane County Fiber. One of the things that I forgot to mention and want to be sure that people have information about, which is how to communicate or get connected with some of the folks that are up here on this panel, and also some of the folks in the industry. We put together a website for information and contact information about our partners and resellers, and some of the maps and some of the slides that you saw. Those are going to be available on their website. It's fiber.countyofkane.org. There's some information out at the tables outside as well if you're interested in contacting us. A lot of what we're trying to do is just be that person to connect people to the right resources. So we look forward to hearing from you. We're also going to be looking at establishing some more regional type of workshop efforts where we can come out and talk with some of the communities or some of the people that are interested. So with that, we're going to be doing a little bit of a panel discussion, a little bit of a give and take with some of the experts that are in this industry in Kane County. So I'm really happy to introduce our panel. I'm going to let them introduce themselves as each of them represent a little bit different area of business, a little bit different area of expertise. And we'll start on this end closest to me with Troy Mertz. So I'll let Troy, you can start and we'll pass.
Pass the microphone.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Troy Mertz, and I have the pleasure of being a developer in Kane County and in Gilbert's, which is in Kane County, and in Algonquin, which is in Kane County. And in my project in Gilbert's, we've been working on fiber to the home technology to serve the community. And so I am now the founder of Fosiva, an internet service provider here in Kane County, the fastest growing internet service provider in Kane County. We started with one customer in January of this year, and we now have 5. So we've grown 500% from that time. So.
Good morning. My name is Matt Parks. I'm the Senior Director of Network and Infrastructure Services at NIU. in addition to my oversight of NIU's campus enterprise network telephony and server infrastructure, I also lead NIU's Broadband Development Consulting Group, which is a group of consulting professionals that works with a lot of public sector entities in Kane County, around Northern Illinois, to expand the reach of technology with their operation. In addition, I'm the executive director of iFiber, an Illinois nonprofit organization that owns and operates an 800-mile fiber optic network, gigabit network. We got to remember the gigabit, right? Yeah. Network throughout the 9 counties of Northwest Illinois. We have 3 main services that we provide with that network. First and foremost, it's gigabit, lit, and dark fiber service to hundreds of community anchor institutions in that region. Those anchors are made up of schools, libraries, municipalities, police and fire, 911, and healthcare. We also offer dark fiber throughout the entire region as well for the telco and commercial markets. And lastly, we offer a new, as of 2016, commercial lit service to the private sector market that we leverage through our third-party agreements with providers that connect into iFiber. It's good to be here. Thank you.
My name is John Duggan. I'm the Vice President of Sales with ByteGrid Data Centers. We're a data center company with a location here in Aurora serving this market, but we have locations spread across the United States. We are heavily focused in the basic co-location all the way up through managed services and cloud services, for the most overused word right here. So we are the cloud for those of you in Aurora. Pleasure to be here. Personal comment for me, here at the Q Center, I had my very first ever job interview right out of school here against my best friend. We were the tops in our classes. He got the job, I didn't, and I'm back here talking to you nice people today. So, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about us afterwards, we have a booth outside. Keith is out there helping man the booth so we can talk a little bit more about our services. Our heaviest focus in the market, though, clearly is our compliance and our resiliency. So anybody here who's focused in the healthcare space, biopharmaceutical, banking, financial, we have all the necessary accreditations in our data centers to support you from a process, procedure, and a security perspective. And for those of you that would even know what ENAC is, if you're in the biopharmaceutical space, we're the only nationally accredited ENAC certified data center organization. So please come talk to us if you'd like to. Thanks for having me.
Morning, my name is Dave Cushing and I'm with Synesis. And first, it's a pleasure to be here and thank you for the invitation this morning. Synesis owns and operates fiber networks across the country. We've been in business for over 15 years, and a lot of what we do is connect customers these days to centers like the one that John and his company run. We are wholly owned by Crown Castle International, which is, I think, going to be interesting in this discussion because what Crown does is build wireless infrastructure. And why is that important for fiber? More and more, in addition to the 40,000 cell towers that Crown owns across the country, the wireless companies are infilling their coverage areas because of all the devices that we all carry all the time that we always want on. And so they bought us because of our fiber footprint. Together now we own 16,000 route miles across the United States, mostly in major markets, mostly metro fiber networks, very dense. And my job really is to work with organizations, governments, and end users to connect them to that fiber for the benefits of private bandwidth delivery. So thank you very much.
Looks like it's still good morning. I'm Mark McCoy. I'm with OnLight Aurora. OnLight Aurora is an internet service provider started based on the 62-mile fiber network that the city of Aurora put in the ground about 8 years ago under the leadership of Tom Weisner and his Chief Technology Officer, Ted Beck. What we offer is services everywhere from Metro Ethernet services, dark fiber, lit wave services, internet services from 50 meg, and possibly up to 100 gig. Right now we're serving one up to 10 gig. We also have some of our customers connected via wireless. We've been going for about 4 years now and have connected 3 of our school districts, 3 of our parochial schools, the Illinois Math and Science Academy, Britta's back over here, the Waubonsee Community College, the Aurora Public Library. So when we get those types of collaboration going between the schools, that was one of our goals. But we also have the Rush Copley Hospital, the financial institutions, and we also have fiber, 144 strands into the Bike Grid facility, into the CME Cyrus 1 facility, and we're in talks right now to offer lit wave services between those two facilities and the new Continuum facility up in West Chicago. And of recent, we've formed some additional partnerships with Kane County where we're working with them to provide services to one of our customers who's located a new facility in Aurora with a second facility in Batavia, and then offering Kane County services to get into the Bike Grid facility locally in our area. So welcome and glad to be here.
And Mike Burke again, be glad to answer any questions on my presentation. One apology, I didn't say anything about the Gen X generation. My mind, they're just waiting for us baby boomers to move out of the way. So, but I would be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. The first question that I had prepared was based on what services or benefits do you see coming from the Kane County fiber optic network? So specific to the Kane County network, how do you use that network, or how would you see a customer potentially using that? And I'm going to direct that question to Troy Mertz to start our conversation.
Thank you. My company, Fosiva, has recently become a customer of Kane County through the network that we've built. And to not get too technical, as a real estate developer, to give you a little bit of a background to the story of the Conservancy development, it's a 995 home subdivision in Gilberts, Illinois. And I came to Kane County Board probably about a year and a half ago or so, maybe 2 years ago, with the problem that we were trying to turn the lights back on a subdivision that only had 2 model homes, but was planned for 1,000 homes. And it had gone into disrepair, had sat there for 7 or 8 years or so, had a lot of burdens on the property, and we were able to work with the Village of Gilberts and with the Kane County government and the Kane County Board to turn the lights back on in there. And so we began developing the project and getting the homes ready for construction. And it was an absolutely, I'm very proud, very excited in it, of what the project is and what I hope it can become. But my one concern, and you guys that are here, there's a lot of municipal people here, so you hear, as a developer, you hear, my concern is, so one of my concerns as a developer was that the Village of Gilberts did not have good internet access. And so I would like to acknowledge, first and foremost, Bill Beath here, who is from the Village of Gilberts, and he's an economic development coordinator for the Village of Gilberts, and he spent a lot of time and has a great resume here in Kane County. I know there's a lot of people who are familiar with Bill and his work. But I didn't really understand why there were so many satellite dishes in Gilberts. You'd drive by, you'd see 3 satellite dishes on a home, and some homes would have, more than 50% of the homes had those satellite dishes on the side of the home. And I actually live in Algonquin in Kane County, and I have Comcast, but I have DirecTV because I don't like either one of them, but that's my own personal opinion. Everyone has their own opinion of who they like or don't like. And so I said, Comcast has the best internet in Chicago when we started Fosiva, the project. And but Bill taught me about the concerns he was hearing from the residents in Gilberts. And we actually, the Village Board of Gilberts took an initiative to take a vote on a referendum to pass for us to build a network in Gilberts, a fiber optic network that would improve everybody's internet service in the community. As a lot of people in this room would know, the Kane County Board has frozen taxes for a reason. Illinois residents are tired of raising taxes, and the referendum failed, and it failed probably 80% to 20%. But it didn't stop me, the developer. Bill called me one day and said, hey, Verizon's out here, they're expanding their network capacity. The guys that are constructing it said you might want to, if they're building a trench, now's the time to do it. And I said, you know what, let's do it. And we, again, we talk about, and I'm not going to claim to be the very smart guy who doesn't necessarily know where he's going, but I'm a risk taker, and I'm a developer, and it's important for a risk taker to understand the risks involved in what you're going to do. So I took the time to talk to the installers that were working on the Verizon project, and that team is Pertano Construction, and we have today Don White. I just want to acknowledge my team because this is something that I undertook not as an understanding of, I'm not the Steve Forbes in the dark shirt, or Steve Jobs, yeah, maybe more of a Steve Forbes, but Steve Jobs with the dark shirt. I'm not the internet service provider. I'm just a risk financier, and I understand risk management. And so I put together a great team. And so Pertano Construction, Mike Perino and Don White are here from Pertano. And Don is the guy who has been the project coordinator for us there at Pertano. And we worked with Northern Illinois University and Roger Swenson, who has designed the network that we put together. And then I went to a friend, Cesar Brada, who has a company called Cyber Services. And Cesar it kind of is my network administrator. So we just assembled a team, and starting an internet service provider is not as hard as you might think. And I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish, but it certainly takes a team effort, and it started with the municipal outreach, right? It was an engaging process where they educated me on the pitfalls. But so I'm not going to get long-winded, but I am proud of my team, and I wanted to say the story of how it impacts a home I can do now, or should I save it?
We save it for
I'll
the
save
next
that.
section.
Okay, so I'm going to pass
We got
this
a couple other questions we're going to get through, but yeah, actually,
I'll
Matthew.
just say more broadly, if I can, just for a
Go ahead,
second.
Matthew.
The benefit of this network, I think, is, first off, it's a high-speed fiber optic network, but it allows for an ecosystem where local providers that are in Kane County or close to Kane County, adjacent to the county, can connect in and serve the county more effectively, grow their businesses, grow the reach of their businesses within the territory. It also allows for the interconnectivity with adjacent networks. And Kane County by itself is a good network. How many miles was that, Roger?
47.
47. There are a lot of other networks. If you kind of zoom out from Kane County, look west, look east, look to the north, and so forth. There's a lot of, you mentioned the Illinois Century Network. They've got an expansive network across the state of Illinois. So Kane County by itself is a good network. Connect that together with the other networks that are adjacent, and you've got much, much more accessibility in the northern Illinois region and across the state than it on its own.
John, would you like to?
Yeah, I'll add a couple quick points. From a data center perspective, the access to new networks, higher speed networks into maybe formerly underserved markets now creates an opportunity for commercial businesses or federal government services to get into a hardened facility like a Bike Grid or the other two that are attached to the core network here, and allows you more resiliency, redundancy, data backup services, disaster recovery, allows you to get out of the data center business and focus on your core responsibilities and let someone like us manage your day-to-day operations of the facility. And so I think that's probably the strongest benefit from my side of it, what the network brings. And then once you're in a facility like the three that we've talked about today, including Bike Grid, you now have connectivity from each of those facilities to thousands of other places around the world, core connectivity right to downtown Chicago, all the other networks and connectivities between some of the other data centers. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to do things locally and then do backups across the country if you have strong disaster recovery requirements.
You can get Mark or Dave, would you like
Yeah,
to?
I'll just echo a couple things that Troy and Matt said. I think one of the big benefits of what Kane County has done in developing and establishing this network is it now gets into the people and actually connecting those people together and sharing that information and kind of providing windows that people can look through that they haven't been able to look through before in terms of how they set their infrastructure up, internet connectivity to data center services, to cloud services, all critical to running a business these days, how they can set those up in a different way than before. So a lot of what we do actually is provide dark fiber to customers. We'll turn the glass over to the customer and let them light it themselves. And one of the value propositions for us is really bringing that element of ownership of the network to that end user, to where now they're not beholden to us or anybody else about how much bandwidth they want to run on that network. It's a capital purchase to upgrade from 10 gig to 100 gig. And we can manage that for you as well. We can light the network ourselves, and it brings me to the second part of what's important. In order to light 100 gig, if that's what the customer is looking for, you need fiber. And we have to be able to interconnect our network to other networks to get to the point where that user wants to take delivery of that service.
I would add one big word: collaboration. We're a customer to Kane County. OnLight Aurora is a customer to Kane County Fiber. We're also a vendor to Kane County. Whether it's getting Kane into their courts in the Aurora area for bond call, or it's providing access into the data centers, or Kane providing us access to one of our customers. The city of Aurora cross-connecting to the city of Naperville so that we can be each other's backup on 911. Having our fire stations. We've got 10 fire stations in both cities. They're all connected via that fiber, and they share that for high-definition telepresence capability, so the firefighters don't have to leave the firehouse to do their training. So we look at collaboration opportunities. When we first formed, Mayor Tom Weisner and Ted Beck, that was the encouragement. Let's figure out ways to make collaboration occur both within the city and outside the border so that we can make good things happen for everybody.
Okay. We're going to try and get on to the next question. And I'm going to combine this with one of the other questions. One of the questions that we constantly get from people, and this comes from both the residential, commercial, education, is how much bandwidth is enough, and how far do we have to go to meet the demand? So, one question is how much bandwidth is needed or necessary, and then the second part is how do we meet this demand, and what are our options out there? I think that's an important question for everyone to understand what the need is, and then how do you supply that need. So the first part of this is how much bandwidth do you need? My personal preference is, the county is over a gigabit. We're in the point where we're looking at a gigabit plus type of connectivity for the county. Many of the folks up here would say, I need a gigabit to my house. Some of the, I'd love to have that in my house. It's not going to happen right now, I don't think, but so how much do we need? What's the demand? And then, what are our options for that?
A lot of options. One way that we, from a size standpoint, we look to our customers to kind of work with them to predict. One of our early indicators is the school districts. The school districts, in collaboration with the state and the federal government, are looking to what needs they think they're going to need per student. So we've got one school district by the end of the summer that we connected at 10 gig. They've got 12,000 students and at least, and all their educators that need to be connected. We've got another school district that's got 30,000 students. They're talking about multiple gigs worth of connectivity, and the businesses then are going to follow that because they're doing, they've got those kids, they're going to get educated, they're going to be out into those businesses. We've got a 150-seat call center that's moved into downtown Aurora. They immediately said, we know we're going to need a gig worth of bandwidth, and we need it to be on all the time and resilient. They parked into the downtown. They've already asked for the gig, and they're going to ask for more. In terms of providing it, we look to partner with multiple service providers to bring that bandwidth in so that we can always get more from any one of those providers. And if any of them have trouble, we can flip to one of the other ones automatically and continue to serve our customers. So again, look to our customers to decide, predict how much, and look to our vendors to kind of provide that to us and give us the ability to upscale at will.
The first part of the question, how much bandwidth is required, do we need? I really don't know the answer to that. We are increasingly in a wireless world, as we like to say. And I was downtown yesterday at a real estate development event. Google Fiber was there. They've announced that they're coming to Chicago. They're looking at it. And talking to the Google Fiber folks, they're in the exploratory phase. So to your point about being relatively tight-lipped, they are. But they gave a short presentation, and one of the statistics studies that was presented was that in 4 years, it's estimated that most homes will have 50 connected devices in the home. And I know from troubleshooting a bandwidth problem at my home recently, I was surprised to find that I had 15 or so, and I couldn't count the 15. but there are a couple things that are always on that you just don't think are on, and then I shut a couple things off. And then I've got 2 daughters at home, and they represent, I think, the top 2% of wireless users that drive 50% of internet traffic that comes from 2 websites, those being Netflix and YouTube. So you have that going on not just when you're on the go, but when you're at home and when you're at the office and when you're standing outside the office on break. And it's just driving a need for some creative solutions. And so, you know, at Crown and at Sunesis, it's going to be a wireless infrastructure, and that's going to be founded on fiber. There's no way that I can think of foundationally that you can avoid aggregating traffic back onto the big pipes and the stability that fiber optics provides. So the foundation that's been laid in Kane County is really, really critical from that perspective. And then the people in this room and the creative ideas that come over time will figure out how to push that bandwidth delivery system out to where it's demanded by the users. And I think that's something that happens over time, and you know, it's started to happen here.
Thank you. John?
You know, from the data center side of it, there's 2 stories we have. We either have a customer who's moving out of their current data center environment, their own homegrown solution at their corporate location. So they already have an idea of the traffic patterns that they have. So our consultants or your VAR or your networking partner would help you figure out that traffic study and design it properly coming into our facility. But then we start to think about, did you design it for growth so that you go from some starting point and then you have the ability to burst up to something else, or do you have dedicated lines and you have to have full-time commitments? So we have to look at that. And then some of the things that I wanted to highlight that drive the demand inside, you know, the user population of our client base. Regulatory compliance. You have more things stored for a longer period of time. You're doing nightly disaster recovery backups, or you're doing real-time backups. Maybe you have to leverage a production facility here in Aurora, and then you're backing up to our Annapolis facility in the DC market. So we have to leverage the network capacity to support your traffic, not only for your inbound, outbound, normal daily business, but what you're doing after hours to keep the lights on in case there's a challenge in your current facilities. Second thing I would add in the shift is really compliance has an incredible impact on customers who have to be audited and regulated. And I can tell you that they don't plan ahead for the redundancy, and that's one of the things we always end up helping customers with afterwards. So the more you think about that up front, the better off you are. Disaster recovery is key, right? You might only need 1 gig for your solution, but what if that network is down? You need an alternative. So we're designing everything in at least minimum, you know, pairs. Okay. Thank you.
So in terms of how much, obviously the answer is lots, and it's more than a megabit, right?
Yeah.
So two data points. In just last year, the FCC upgraded the definition of broadband across the country from 1 meg up, 4 meg down, to 5 meg up and 25 meg down, right? So across the country, that's their definition now of broadband. So we know where the trends are going. While I have no idea, I wouldn't be surprised if 3, 4, 5 years from now, that gets reset again and it's going to go further north. Secondly, with regards to education, an organization called the State Educational Technology Directors Association, so again, focused on K through 12 education, has given guidance that by next year, they want to see a gigabit of capacity for every 1,000 students and faculty in a school or school district, right? So they're pushing the envelope already in terms of what's needed to support the schools and school districts out there. And I'll just talk just briefly about municipalities in terms of what the driver of traffic is. I work at NIU. We do lots of research about lots of things. And one thing in particular in municipal government is the provision of e-government services, information, and so forth, the presence online, right? So we've seen with more capacity, internet capacity, that budgets, consolidated annual financial reports, meetings, agendas, the overall web content, the web presence up online is much broader. It allows your citizens much better, more access into the municipal operation. That's one, right? So if you've got a slow connection, your ability to upload and download budgets and the CAFRs, which are quite large documents, is difficult to do. So that's an enabling type of thing there. And then secondly, on the two-way communication side, so social media, online requests and complaints, bill pay functionalities, and then the sort of the embracement of mobile technology across the Internet of Things. Everybody's carrying a mobile device. That's where things are going. So those are kind of the drivers in one particular segment of society that will just continue to proliferate, I think, in years ahead.
Troy, do you want to answer that?
From a residential standpoint, just the quick gist of how much is enough and what is the right amount. When we opened the model in March of last year, AT&T was the only utility provider that would have any internet service available other than like satellite broadcast. And satellite broadcast is probably good enough to get your emails, but it's certainly not good enough to stream video or anything like that if you've ever used a YouTube or Netflix or anything like that. When the model doors opened, AT&T installed a 16 megabits per second system in the Conservancy. Mike's trucks at Pertano got into the trench. When you do a trench, you call ComEd, and they put the trench in the backyard, and it's called like a tri-party trench agreement. ComEd, AT&T, and your usual cable provider. But we didn't have a cable provider. We were not able to get a will serve letter from any cable provider in the village of Gilberts. And so we started laying our fiber optic. And I think someone at AT&T must have taken notice, because the guy came out. I was in the model home, and within a week after the doors opened, they were scratching their heads. The guy said, "I was just out here. We put in a 16 megabit per system. We've upgraded you to the 24 megabit quad system." And so they changed all of the technology that they just installed when I believe they saw what we were doing out there. And then January of this year, we debuted FOSIVA in the community with 1 gigabit service to the home as shared broadband. And this spring, AT&T is now selling to customers in the Conservancy 350 megabits per second service with a television package for $130 a month. Now, if you look, when you go home and enter your address on AT&T's website, I'm pretty sure that nobody in this room can get that service anywhere in Chicago, but the Conservancy homes are getting that service. And so they're competing with me, because I'm FOSIVA, and my internet has 5 customers. So I don't know how it's going to go, but when we look at how we use it, streaming 4K televisions, when you go into Best Buy and say the new 4K TV, even the cable providers are not broadcasting in 4K yet. But if you go in our home, you are streaming without buffer 4K television from YouTube and Netflix and Amazon. It's just amazing. Beautiful color, everything else. So.
Okay.
Roger, just add
Yes,
one
John.
more, playing off of a couple of comments here. First of all, thanks, Matt, for pointing out that my broadband connection, quote unquote, doesn't qualify for the FCC stats anymore. So my troubleshooting efforts didn't work, apparently, with my provider. But I think another part of this is the type of connectivity that's being demanded. So it's not just the amount of bandwidth potentially to drive that window or access into government for payment systems, for accessing information, or with a private enterprise for the same types of things. Securing that data and making sure that you have control and possession of it is more important too. And so John talked about it from a standards perspective. Opening up all these apps to allow you convenience is great, but having the data leak on the other end is not such a great thing for that organization. And so that fiber infrastructure provides the option for an enterprise to take a private connection and not share that bandwidth with anybody else, and that's a lot of what we do as well.
For the sake of trying to keep on schedule, we're going to skip to a question near the end, which is really near and dear to my interest in this, and that is really, how do you get connected with some of these folks? And we go through a kind of a learning process, all of us do, with this technology. Some of it may be familiar, but for a lot of us, it's where do I start? Where do I begin the conversation? So one of the things I wanted to do was give these folks a way to express where do we begin? Where do you begin with them, and what types of interest is there out there? So if they have some information or something they'd like to share about, where they think you should get started, I think that would be important from their perspective. So we'll start here with Troy. And how do you get started with these folks, and where do you go?
I think the single most important lesson to be learned for Kane County today was something that Michael brought up, which is internet inclusion. Because as a businessman, I would go to the most dense populated apartment building and offer internet service to those people, because the bill that you get from the construction folks would be the smallest bill with the most potential customers. But is that an equitable solution for Kane County government as you look at how to address the needs of the entire community? And Kane County is much different than Cook County. And so working with the municipal levels of government and trying to understand how to put private dollars to work on a balanced approach within the community is the best challenge. And I'm certainly my company, Fosiva, is ready to offer services throughout Kane County, and that's kind of what our website has debuted here. My website developer at Ellington is here today, and he was the designer of the website, and his company, Cloud9, is a great start for anybody looking to start their internet web page presence. And he certainly makes us look like a real company. So I was very thankful and appreciative of that. And so I would be happy to talk to any governmental authority here in Kane County about how to bring resources. And I'm a risk financier, and I do put money to work when it makes sense. So,
thank you.
So I think if you want to connect in Kane County, first and foremost, we just call Roger.
We do have some information on our fiber.countyofkane.org website, and we would be happy to try and connect people back to resources.
So that's
yes.
number one. So, Troy alluded to it as well. You have to have, if you're somebody who provides network services like in Kane County and so on, you have to have an online presence. That online presence has to do many things well, but a couple things is, one, to articulate what the network even is, what the footprint looks like, who it connects to, the services that are on it, the data centers they may connect to, et cetera. And then simply how one might connect to it if you're a residential homeowner, if you're a business, what steps you need to take to connect into that network. And as I mentioned earlier, I'll just reinforce the point, these networks are fantastic on their own. It was alluded to earlier, the real promise of success is collaboration within the county, within the partners that are in this room, but also outside of this county, between Kane and DeKalb County, between Kane and Cook and so forth, and that's where the real success is. And just a shameless plug for NIU, since I work there, and I mentioned that we've got this broadband development consulting group, we can assist public sector entities with thinking through technology challenges, thinking through how broadband can alter or enhance their operations. So by all means, just Google NIU Broadband Development Group. You'll find us easily. We've got a easy contact, and we'll be in touch very shortly afterwards. And we do have a booth outside, so feel free to stop by and introduce yourself. Thank you.
So playing off a similar theme, if you're going to try and get in touch with Roger, you're actually going to do that over OnLight's fiber into the Bike Grid network to get to his computer. So,
yes, yes.
For those of you looking at the rest of the world, I view your network connectivity as something that's going to come through some of the other providers that are here, and it's your on-ramp to the rest of the world, right? You get into a data center infrastructure like us or some of the other players in the space, and now we have access to 10 or 15 other carriers that are in our own buildings, so we can cross-connect to all these other networks, help you reach out to the rest of the world and your other business partners, and even connect, to CERMAC and reach internationally from there. So lots of great opportunity. If you want to learn more about Bike Grid, obviously off the website, we're here in the outside break room area. Happy to talk to you afterwards. So thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think there's, this is great. There's multiple opportunities. We work with the NIUNet folks, and so they know us, we know them. Chairman Lausen and Roger are more recent connections. I have no doubt we'll find more opportunities to work together as we go forward as well. But you've got a resource here in Kane County to connect to connect you with other folks that can do things for you. And the data center operators themselves are great resources, like John just said. They are, access points to lots of different networks. And what pops to my mind is a connection we're doing for a company right now who wants to be in a data center here that's located in Wisconsin. And that data center provider connected that user with us. So, we're all trying to be as transparent as possible about what the capabilities are and where they exist. And I think you've got multiple touch points. But I'll also add that you've got to figure out what you're trying to accomplish as well. You may not all know what the possibilities are from an infrastructure perspective, but there's got to be good business drivers behind it, and some of us, or all of us, can help you flesh that out as well when you give us a call.
Come to onlightaurora.com. That's our website. You can see me afterwards. If you're looking to get connected to the internet, get high-speed internet bandwidth, get connected to one of the data centers that are on the network. We've worked with other people getting connected back up into Kane County because we can work together with the folks at Kane County. Give us a call, and we'll work with you to engineer a solution.
I'd like to give Mr. Michael Burke a chance to make any final comments about the fiber network and the initiatives that we have going on in Kane County. But Michael, if you would indulge us.
Let me just comment on a couple of things been said about how much bandwidth and why it's important. And I do relate to real estate developers. I have been one and am one, and the risk that's involved. If you can imagine having a beautiful home subdivision and you're trying to sell it and you say, oh, by the way, we have everything but electricity. And I think the future is whether it's business, whether it's schools, whether it's government, or certainly fiber to the home. If you it's going to be an amenity that you're going to list on your listing statement as to what you have access to. And that continues to change, it continues to go up. The demand is tremendous. And I know there are a lot of elected officials here. We've had to tackle in our government a lot of issues. Everything from what data do we release to the public, and we've opted more data to the public. They can access more information about water and sewer and electrical lines and maps and mapping, because that type of data can be very powerful service that the community can provide. But also, what kind of public spaces do you have that you need bandwidth for? Not just to communicate with police and fire, but I know in our convention center, we have Wi-Fi, but the convention center people consider it a profit center. And I keep arguing, and I think I'm winning the argument. It's not a profit center, it's an amenity. It's an amenity you need to provide, or your meeting managers that come in and can't get good bandwidth, they're not going to blame the meeting manager, they're going to blame the convention center. So there are a lot of areas in your community that you might not think need the bandwidth, but they do.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank all the panelists for participating in today's discussions. I hope that you found some of their comments helpful. We wanted to present some of the faces and people that are doing some of these things behind the scenes, and they're a part of our community. They're available to us as resources. They make their living and their business doing these types of services. They're very good at it, and I would encourage you to visit the booth, talk with some of them after we're done with this meeting. But once again, I'd just like to thank them for coming up and taking the time to just share some of their insight with us. So if you wouldn't mind indulging, give them a round of applause.
T.R. Smith is one of our favorite board members. And he's a stitch, but I'm never sure if he's really kidding me or not. And he came up to me at the break and he goes, this fiber stuff, Chris. I had fiber this morning. He goes, if I get high-speed fiber, what's that going to do for me? Thank you for your contribution, TR. That's all right. So much to learn today. Thank you so much. I'd ask each one of you to write down 3 things that you're going to do, not just what you take from the meeting, but actions that you're going to follow up on now to capitalize on the investment that's been made by your time. The idea of 10% technology, 90% sociology, and that the whole process begins with listening, such a good point. The most successful sales experiences are from listening to prospects. The idea of inclusion, very important. Our next speaker has made that one of the core missions of her life and her service in business. But one of the bottom lines, I believe, for our board, for the Kane County Board, is that because there's a user cash flow, Kane County can and wants to make strategic infrastructure investments to link and produce connectivity to support and partner with 530,000 constituents. Our board supports growth, and we've paid down debt by half. We've cut our debt in half in the last 4 years or so, and so we have capacity to be good, useful partners as long as there's cash flow to make sure that we can fulfill our obligation. Now, it is a special privilege for me today. You've given me a privilege to introduce our final keynote speaker. I'll tell you what I like so much about Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle, without whose strong and disciplined leadership there would not be regional coordinated effort for economic development, and more important than just economic development, I think for human advancement. Tony is, Madam President, Preckwinkle is gifted with intelligence, her bachelor's and master's degree out of the University of Chicago, and then persistence. You really do need to go to, whether it's Google or Wikipedia, read her background, her political background of how she got to where she is, and how she ran 3 times in what some people say you can't beat the Chicago machine, or people are in there for 15 years and you can never take them on if you feel that you have a better contribution to make. But 3 times she ran at that wall, and the 3rd time she vaulted over it and became an alderman, and then served well, and then has advanced all the way to one of the most powerful positions in the United States. Another one of the secrets to her success, and one of the things that I like so much about her, is that she respects and listens to her constituents. Another thing is that she thinks for herself on behalf of her citizens that she serves. And then finally, she tells it like she sees it. I mean this in only the most respectful and positive way, but you know, in politics these days, you see the rise of a Bernie Sanders and a Donald Trump, and when people say, what's going on here? And some folks say that it's a matter of candor, authenticity, not political rhetoric. But I can tell you that the lady who's going to speak now, decades before it was fashionable, that's what Tony Preckwinkle was, and that is authentic and strong leader, intelligent, big heart. So, Tony, thank you very much.
Good morning. I want to thank Chris for that kind introduction. And I want to thank him, too, for inviting me here today. I'm happy to be here and to see so many people in the audience. I want you to know that your chairman and I have been working together on a number of important initiatives for the last 2.5 years. And Chairman Lausen has been a real leader on the issues of economic growth for our region, and a terrific partner. I'm grateful to him. The short title of my remarks today is Connections. I was asked to talk about some of the initiatives that the 7 counties of metropolitan Chicago and the City of Chicago have undertaken to grow our economy, and I'm pleased to do that. But before reporting on what we've accomplished so far, I want to make 3 points about our regional economy. Shortly after I was elected president of the county board, I created a council of economic advisors consisting of business and civic leaders. Let me just say my chief of staff at the time, Kurt Summers, said, "The President of the United States has a council of economic advisors, we should have one." So the assignment of our council of economic advisors was to help me better understand our economy and how we might improve it. It's been a valuable learning experience for me, history teacher that I am. Here are 3 of the most important issues we identified in Partnering for Prosperity, the report of our Council of Economic Advisors. First, the economy is changing and changing rapidly. Those of us of a certain age, that's with a little gray hair, recall a post-war economy that was much different than today's global economy. The new economy is based on innovation and knowledge, so education and training become the bedrock of economic growth. Regions, which aren't simply defined by city or county lines, are the new competitive landscape in the global economy. It's become abundantly clear that inclusive growth fuels the region's economic growth. The regions that can deploy their entire human and business assets do better because they perform better, generate greater productivity, and reduce poverty. Let me just say, the strongest regions in the country have the least inequality. The strongest regions in the country have the least inequality. Leaving parts of the region behind or simply ignoring them does not work. Second, because the economy is now different, our approach to economic development has to be different. Gone are the days when it's enough to advertise that our region has a great airport, great universities, and that we can offer tax breaks. The economy is regional, and we need to approach it from a regional perspective. So here's an important fact. Less than 1% of net new jobs created in any given year are the result of business relocation. Historically, we've put a lot of emphasis on attraction and trying to get businesses to come from other places to our communities or our cities. New jobs are overwhelmingly created by existing businesses. I'll say that again. New jobs are overwhelmingly created by existing businesses that grow by the creation of more jobs on their sites. A business that moves from Schaumburg to downtown Chicago is not economic development, or that moves from Chicago to St. Charles or St. Charles to Chicago. No new jobs are created. The only real winners are the companies that move. Third, the Council of Economic Advisors keeps reminding me that despite our considerable assets, and we have wonderful assets, our region is struggling. Most of you probably read in the paper the recent headline, "Chicago area sees the greatest population loss of any major U.S. city or region in 2015. Slow population growth or population declines usually mean that we're not creating enough jobs to support our population. The unemployment rate in our region was 6.6% in 2015. That's the highest rate among the 10 largest metropolitan regions in the country. I offer these figures not to discourage you, but to suggest that what we are doing in the past may not be working now. And it's time to rethink what we're doing about our shared economy. With these 3 points as a framework, let me tell you what I and Chairman Lausen and our counterparts in the other counties have been doing to break down longstanding barriers. First, we met in December of 2013 at the Federal Reserve Bank in downtown Chicago. It was a small group of elected officials and business leaders from across the region. We heard from officials at the bank about the state of our economy, and we pledged to work together to see if we could collectively grow that economy. Since then, we've continued to meet, again, that's 2.5 years, and we've created 4 separate cooperative initiatives. One of the first things we tackled was how to rationalize the Byzantine truck permitting system in the region for overweight and oversized vehicles. Now you have to understand that Chicago, of course, is the capital of the Midwest. Our region is the catalyst for most of the development in the Midwest. So logistics is really important. We've got a lot of railroads 5 of the 6 largest railroads in the country come through this region. There's a lot of intermodal activity, taking goods from trains to trucks and trucks to trains. So this truck permitting is really important. But you need to know that a trucker needs a separate permit for each jurisdiction it crosses, so that's a logistical nightmare. This delays the movement of goods and increases the cost of business. Now, let me just say, credit to all of you, Kane County leads the region in addressing this problem, and a few years ago simplified the system, demonstrating that it can be done. That's helpful to all the rest of us. Kane County handles the permitting for all of its townships. Currently, Cambridge Engineering is working with all of the counties, the state, and municipalities to identify some short-term and long-term improvement options based on the good work that Kane County has already done. So that's 1, truck permitting. 2, Metro Chicago exports. Another startling figure. Only 6% of small businesses export, only 6%. Metro Chicago Exports, which again is this regional initiative, helps small and medium-sized businesses to do that. One of its hallmark programs is the Export Grant Program. In the first year, Metro Chicago Exports provided 54 grants worth approximately $225,000 to manufacturers across the region to reduce the costs of going global, to help them with capacity building, in other words. Kane County saw the impact of the program and stepped up and put an additional $50,000 in the pot to assist Kane County businesses. Thank you, Chairman Lausen. I want to say that this initiative, Metro Chicago Exports, is accepting applications for 2016 right now. Where are you, Tom? Stand up. So Tom Holtzman is the director of Metro Chicago Exports. If you have a business and you're interested in exports, or you know somebody who might be, you should find Tom by the end of the meeting. The Illinois thank you, Tom. The Illinois Chamber of Commerce, in conjunction with the Illinois Economic Development Association, recently awarded Metro Chicago Exports one of its Eddy Awards in recognition of the companies and organizations that imagine, design, invest, and build in Illinois, and by doing so, bring jobs, growth, and prosperity to our communities. 3, Chicago Metro Metal Consortium. It's up and running. It has leveraged $36 million in new resources to support manufacturing. So our region doesn't really make much steel anymore, but it's a very strong metalworking, metal fabricating center. 173 firms in metals and machineries have reported a combined $279 million in aggregate impact, sales increases, investment, and cost savings, including the creation of 400 jobs and the retention of 1,100 jobs as a result of this initiative. It's fostered more than 400 connections for businesses to increase sales through regional matchmaking events. I went to one of those. It was fascinating. Chicago Metro Metal Consortium will continue to offer metal and machinery manufacturers services and resources to grow their businesses through collaboration, networking, and increased market intelligence. The Metro Metal Consortium promotes the region as the nation's leading center for production technology. Finally, foreign direct investment, what they call FDI. As you may have noticed, foreign-owned businesses play an increasingly important role in the region. Research shows that these businesses often pay higher wages, invest in more in research and development, and ultimately export more. In partnership with the Brookings Institution, we've started to develop a plan to attract and leverage foreign direct investment in the region. So we're proud of what we've done so far, these 4 initiatives. Truck permitting, the focus on exports, Metro Metal Consortium, and foreign direct investment. We're proud of what we've done so far. We've gotten to know and trust each other. We accept the fact that we're all in this together. This is an entirely voluntary approach to regional work, and it's been successful so far. For the most part, we've managed to do what we have with existing staff and resources, but it's beginning to strain those resources and limit our effectiveness, and it's not sustainable in the long run, especially as we expand what we do. At the last meeting of our group, we heard from Tom Clark, who's president of Metro Denver. He spoke to us about Denver's resurgence from the late 1980s, not that long ago, when it had an office rate vacancy of 30%, and Colorado was rated as the 48th least attractive state for manufacturing, distribution, headquarters, and research. The 48th out of 50 states. In July of 2015, Denver led Forbes' 2015 list of best places for business and careers. Quite a turnaround. Metro Denver is credited with playing a major role in the region's change of fortunes. It's a multi-county effort that provides core data for each of the jurisdictions, helps them all with business leads, and has a non-compete mechanism that keeps jurisdictions from poaching from one another. It has successfully advocated for major investments in infrastructure to serve the entire region, focused on foreign direct investment, and identified targeted industries to pursue and support. It's 100% privately funded. Through our work with exports and foreign direct investment, we've become acutely aware that Chicago is one of the few regions in the country that does not have a public-private partnership that effectively represents the region's interests. Metro Denver is not unique. There are regions all over the country that are making real progress working together in more formal structures. San Diego, Minneapolis-St. Paul, upstate New York, and our neighbor to the north, Milwaukee, all have robust regional economic development organizations. These areas speak powerfully and work collaboratively with one regional voice. Across the country, these organizations undertake a range of activities to implement existing local economic development ecosystems. Regional economic development organizations provide regional data and analytics, program design, program management, strategic development, and marketing services to enhance and strengthen the work of local organizations. When I consider the data that I mentioned earlier, I believe it's more important than ever to consider new ways of doing things. The title of today's event, Connections, underscores what we have to do: make new connections to support and strengthen our economy. After hearing about Denver's renaissance, as well as others around the country, my peers from other counties in the region and I have agreed that it's time we seriously explore how we could better work together, including a more formal structure for our collaboration. Our staffs have begun to consider these options and will be reporting back in September. This is one case where I believe the whole is far greater than the sum of the parts, and I'm convinced that a regional economic entity which would enhance all of our ability to grow the region far beyond what we are able to do individually is in order. Again, I want to thank you for your attendance today, and I hope that we have a time to take a few questions. Thank you very much.
My name is John Martin. I'm the county board representative from the 11th district, which is big pieces of Batavia and Geneva Township. On behalf of Chairman Chris Lausen and the county board, I'm honored to present the nominees for the 2016 Kane County Sparkler Awards. Sparkler Awards recognize outstanding and sometimes unheralded achievements in 3 categories: innovation, partnership, and business. I will announce each of the nominees and ask that they stand to be recognized. When I have finished announcing the nominees for each category, I will announce the winner of that category and invite them to join us on stage. All other nominees are honorable mention winners and will receive their awards and have photos taken after the event. This is an awards ceremony, and in furtherance of Kane County's and the board's attitude towards keeping our levy as low as possible, I want you all to imagine that there's a lavish and very expensive orchestra sitting next to me and a loud drum roll before each presentation. The first category is innovation. The first nominee for the innovation category is IN2 at the Illinois Math and Science Academy. A next big thing at IMSA is IN2, a $1.9 million, 6,400 square foot state-of-the-art innovation center. IN2 is designed to ignite collaboration and entrepreneurial activity among students, educators, business, and the community to solve real-world problems, design prototypes, and launch new ideas to advance the human condition. IN2 focuses on 4 areas of STEM, that would be science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and innovation, entrepreneurship education, teaching and learning, maker movement, and diversity. A generous lead gift of $1 million by alumnus Steve Chen, class of 1996, is enabling access to the community and inspiring innovation at IMSA and in Aurora, the Fox Valley western suburbs, Chicago, and beyond. The next nominee for the innovation category is the Kane Fiber Network. Are they here? Oh, well, they are here. Of course they are. We already heard what we need to know about this nominee. We hope you will all be ambassadors by helping to spread the good news about how it gives Kane County a distinct advantage in so many ways. The third nominee for the innovation category is the Kane Health Counts website. The Kane Health Counts website helps community members and policymakers learn about the health of the community. This website provides information that allows viewers to see how Kane County stacks up in such topics as health, transportation, economics, housing, and more. It makes it easier to find information that is typically housed on different websites or not available without a subscription. Certain indicators are measured at the zip code and census tract level, allowing for municipalities to quickly see what is happening in their communities. The next nominee is the Kane County OpenGov website. OpenGov is a cloud-based financial transparency website for agencies and local governments like Kane County. OpenGov is an online financial analysis platform that will provide unprecedented access to Kane County's financial information to all stakeholders, including local residents, elected officials, department heads, and other employees. OpenGov is a powerful visualization software that transforms volumes of raw data into an interactive digital format, enabling better analysis and understanding of the current and historical budget and operations of Kane County. The next nomination for innovation category is Troy Mertz, the Conservancy Development and the Village of Gilberts. The Conservancy will be the only subdivision in the entire state of Illinois to have every home built with fiber to the home technology, with broadband capacity so lightning fast that it creates an internet at the speed of light experience. They have constructed an internet backbone that interconnects to the world's largest data center located in Chicago. And the final nominee for the innovation category is the Waubonsee Vision 2050 project. The Waubonsee Vision 2050 project created a dynamic framework to anticipate, imagine, and elevate our collective futures. In June 2015, stakeholders came together on the college's Sugar Grove campus for the Waubonsee Vision 2050 Futures Summit, which featured presentations and discussions. Several themes emerged. The following fall, the Waubonsee Board of Trustees, faculty, staff, and future summit attendees were invited to participate in outreach and engagement roundtables to help refine what these themes might mean, both for Waubonsee and for the future of our local communities. In total, 1,814 participants were involved in that process. And it's now my honor to announce the winner of the innovation category. Drum roll. Troy Mertz. That's your call, sure. The second category is partnership. The first nominee for the partnership category is Aurora River Edge Park. River Edge Park has been created to bring stunningly beautiful entertainment as well as recreational and natural amenities along both banks of the Fox River. The park's appeal as a unique venue and destination will provide a powerful catalyst for investment and continued development in Aurora's downtown and beyond. River Edge Park represents a strong collaborative effort between the public and private sectors, including business people, environmental advocates, developers, and community members. We should all be proud of the dynamic nature of this vision and expect that as the park comes to life, new elements and activities will be introduced continuously. The second nominee for the partnership category is the Anderson Road Overpass. Here are a few of the project features. A new 2-mile roadway and bridge overpass, provides traffic route alternatives, improves response time for emergency vehicles, offers a Class 2 truck route, safe grade-separated railroad crossing, direct access to the Elburn Metro Station, bicycle pedestrian infrastructure, public and private sector partnerships, Kane County, Village of Elburn, Blackberry Township, Metra, Union Pacific Railroad, and landowners. The next nominee for the partnership category is Blackberry Township for McNair Field. Blackberry Township recently received a Grand Victoria Casino Fund check administered through Kane County. Blackberry Township does not have a park and recreation program, which means that the intergovernmental agreement with the Forest Preserve District of Kane County and collaborative efforts of the various sport groups was necessary to make the sports field a reality. The property will be developed over time in cooperation with local youth sport groups into sport fields. In addition to sport fields for several hundred youth, the long-term plans include walking and bike paths as well as a play area. The next nominee for the partnership category is D300 Elgin Community College Tuition Partnership. This groundbreaking partnership between a Kane County high school and a Kane County community college makes it possible for students to earn college credits at no tuition charge while they're still in high school. District 300 recently announced the new partnership with Elgin Community College that will provide qualified high school seniors the opportunity to enroll at ECC full-time and earn college credit hours tuition-free. The next nominee for partnership category is the Downtown Neighborhood Association, that's the DNA of Elgin. Way in the back. The Downtown Neighborhood Association of Elgin is a not-for-profit, volunteer-driven organization focused on enhancing the economic vitality of downtown Elgin through promotions, special events, economic development, and historic preservation. DNA utilizes the National Main Street's 4-point approach to downtown revitalization and is a designated Illinois Main Street community. Their goals include be the keeper of the vision for downtown, create and maintain partnerships with key stakeholders, provide a united and authoritative voice on downtown issues, cultivate the leadership required to implement necessary actions, garner resources to successfully implement the revitalization effort, market the positives of downtown and diminish the misconceptions, enhance the physical image and appearances of downtown, support economic growth and a diversified tax base, educate the community about the value of a thriving downtown and DNA's role in that activity, and support and assist with the city's downtown capital improvement projects. If you've been to downtown Elgin lately, you would agree that they're a worthy nominee. If you've not been there lately, you should go there this summer to see that for yourself. The final nominee for the partnership category is the Lao American Organization of Elgin. The Lao American Organization of Elgin was formally established in 1996. Prior to 1996, community leaders supported the Lao American community of Elgin through various programs and activities dating back to the 1960s. They are a service organization with the mission to provide services and assistance to help our community develop and achieve success. Lao American Organization of Elgin has the following missions: unite and provide assistance to Laotian refugees living in the Elgin and its surrounding cities, with emphasis on educational and social cultural factors as a focal point. These activities include developing youth leaders, some of which have joined us today, and we welcome you, coordinated medical and health screening for the adult population, a summer camp where they teach Lao tradition and music, senior home care services, and providing 2 scholarships for college students and high school seniors. It's now my honor to announce the winner of the partnership category, and that is the Lao American Organization of Elgin. The third and final category is business. The first nominee for the business category is ALE Solutions. ALE Solutions in St. Charles recently celebrated its 15th anniversary and broke ground on a new 36,000 square foot building in downtown St. Charles for its 300 employees. Rowena Zimmers began the company in the basement of their home in downtown St. Charles. ALE, which stands for Additional Living Expenses, works with insurance companies to provide temporary housing for families after they are displaced. The next nominee for the business category is Chicago Premium Outlets. Chicago Premium Outlets recently completed a $110 million addition to the shopping center at I-88 and Farnsworth Road, including new and expanded stores, 2,200 new parking spaces, fireplaces, art installations, outdoor seating areas, and a pond. The project will provide considerable positive economic impact to the area. In addition to providing approximately 300 construction jobs, an estimated 500 full and part-time workers are employed by the Premium Outlets' new stores. The next nominee for the business category is Clark. Clark moved into their new headquarters, a renovated 27,000 square foot single-story building in St. Charles, in April of 2014. The new facility improved efficiency by combining Clark's administrative offices and labs for research and development. Engaging their employees in the design process, they envisioned a building that would represent the kind of business Clark was evolving into. A company that is not only on the cutting edge of technological advancement, but also fosters creativity, discovery, environmental stewardship, advocacy, community partnerships, and humanitarian efforts. The building is designed for both energy efficiency and to promote creativity and the interdepartmental collaboration. With the installation of a solar array on the roof, over the exterior facade, awning, and on the electric vehicle charging station carport. They are generating approximately 20% of the facility's total electrical needs. The next nominee for the business category is the Kane County Cougars. The Kane County Cougars Foundation, Inc., raised more than $542,000 for local charities last year and has set its community outreach partnerships for 2016. Through various other in-kind donations, community appearances, high school seminars, clinics, and events, the Kane County Cougars Foundation added to the overwhelming donation total supporting organizations in Kane County and the surrounding area. The Cougars hope to continue this outreach and remain active in giving back to its supporters and community members. After celebrating 25 years of baseball this past season, the Kane County Cougars revamped their look for 2016 and beyond. They rebranded the organization, including a new logo, colors, and uniforms. The Cougars' primary focus is still on family and G-rated entertainment while delivering quality baseball for their fans. Their 25th anniversary season in 2015 brought in more than 400,000 fans to the Fifth Third Bank ballpark. The next nominee for the business category is the Auto Engineering Tom Rozier with the Village of Carpentersville, West Dundee, and East Dundee. I don't think anybody's here from that group, but your applause is well received, I'm sure. Auto Engineering and Tom Rozier have invested tens of millions of dollars into Carpentersville, West Dundee, and East Dundee. He has purchased and remodeled hundreds of properties, houses, townhouses, commercial space, and industrial buildings. The results and impact on these communities is tremendous. For over 50 years, Auto has been designing and manufacturing a full line of products for unique and demanding applications. They are recognized worldwide for superior performance and innovative products. Auto Engineering is reported to have about 500 employees and annual revenues of about $100 million. The final nominee for the business category is the Riverbank Laboratories. Riverbank Laboratories has produced the world's highest quality tuning forks since 1921 and is the first of 8 companies in Kane County to receive export grants in 2015 from Metro Chicago Exports in Kane County. As a result, they have expanded their marketing and sales in Europe, rebranded their company and website, and attended international shows. In the report to the Jobs Committee of the Kane County Board, Riverbank's Laboratories stated that without funding support provided by MCE and Kane County, we would not have pursued expanding our export business. We are developing relationships with foreign distributors, growing our export business, and staffing to meet increased demand for our tuning fork products. And the winner of this category is the Kane County Cougars. Once again, I want to congratulate all of our nominees and request that you stay after the event to receive your awards and have your picture taken. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, John, and congratulations to all the award winners. Okay, we are within 2 minutes of the commitment for a noon adjournment. I appreciate everybody who came. Again, every one of you individually was selected and we talked about, okay, now who's going to call and invite them? I appreciate your having taken your valuable time to make an investment this morning. Remember writing down the three things, the three action steps that you're going to take in order to derive dividends from the investment that you've made this morning. We respect you, and we are very grateful for our partnership. Thank you very much for coming today.